guess who is here. So tonight we have, and we're privileged to have somebody in this catalog, because we had a lawyer on the show, but we have nobody running for any kind of political seat. The first time, this is history, so use the first.
Yeah, I like making history.
This is like history tonight. And people, because I'm going to learn something. I have some questions to ask, so I'm going to definitely learn something tonight. And so big up yourself, Shelly. How was the weekend? Great?
It was good.
All right, you do anything?
We barbecued.
All right, so let me show you. Let me show the people. So Shelly, husband,
yes.
Mr.
Edward,
Ira,
yes,
said to me that he's going to make some jerk chicken, but he's gonna smoke it. So this is the first. He claims it's the first they jerking and
ever
smoking.
been done.
That we know that, right? So we laugh.
It smells good.
So I guess the question is, have you had jerk smoked chicken?
No, I've never had it before.
But you've had jerk chicken, right?
Yes, I buy jerk chicken and I buy smoked chicken.
And you've had, but you never had it. All right, so far, he's on this. What about you? Have you had? I've never personally had jerk smoked chicken.
That smells good. I smell it all the way over
this
here.
is the first time.
All right, so that's. How about you? You've had it. All right, so.
It's not the first time.
But she's in the minority, right?
So you had jerk, or you had jerk and smoke
together? Smoked jerk?
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, Mego said me never have smoked jerk, so he buy it he made it so we can try it. So we're gonna put it over. Because the show are gonna stop and it's not cooking hour. We had a chef forward on the show and it was great. It was great.
It was good.
So, in case you don't know, the lady sitting in front of us right now. And before we start, how was your weekend? What did you do? Were you campaigning? Were you hanging with the family?
Yes, I was campaigning. So since we're on the campaign trail and the vote is August 23rd, we've been campaigning every day.
Every day?
Every day. Four or five events.
So God rests on Sunday, but you're not part of his dominions right now.
No, God said I got to win Congress before I can rest.
Stop it!
We go to churches, though.
She go to church with her pamphlets, or you go in there to listen to the word? Which one is it?
We go with our pamphlets, and we listen to the word. We pray on the way out.
All right, so churches on Sundays, you go to all
denominations, yes, all denominations.
Okay, so
we've been to mosque, we've been to church, we've been to Seventh-day Adventists. We've been everywhere. So, and we're willing to go. If you know any churches or any mosque, any synagogues, any place we need to go, we are there.
Now, are you just trying to? I guess the question, because you're black, right? So we're thinking that you're looking the black vote. Is that what it is, or you're trying to get heavy vote? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, the district has 800,000 people, so it's not just black people. It's broken up at about. This is an interesting thing a lot of people don't know. Orange County is a minority county, right, meaning that there's about 28% Hispanic Latino, 27% black, and about 31% white, and the rest is broken down into the Caribbean, Asian, and then others.
Okay, so with that being said, they are not categorizing are they categorizing the black Jamaican people as others, or are they categorizing it as black people?
It depends on what you mark on your census. Some of us don't want to mark nothing on our census.
What?
I'm gonna frame it that way, Shelly. I don't put Shelly out there. Shelly says that she's not African.
Correct.
Right?
Right.
So on the pamphlet, what is the choices?
There's a lot of choices. There's usually black, and then black is broken down into if you're African descent, if you're Caribbean descent. Then they also have Hispanic, which is broken down into Caribbean descent, Latino, or Mexican, or and then they also have others, which also gives you that choice.
So do they add Caribbean? Because I've never seen that.
It's on the census. So you do have you can put of Jamaican descent, you can put of Haitian descent, you can put of if you're from. They usually those are the only two that are kind of separated. The rest of the islands are kind of added together into of Caribbean descent. So what happens on these censuses a lot of times is that many Caribbean people will put Latino on there. So you get the numbers because of the categories. Of course, Hispanic is broken down into lots of different categories, but not so much black, right? So
and the white is just white.
White is
Doesn't
just,
matter if you're from.
they don't get to
Europe.
say German, of German descent.
Okay.
I haven't seen that. I just see white. That's funny, right? They get.
So it's pretty normal for black people to say that they're not African and they're just black.
Well, I'm just talking about the census. Yeah, I'm just talking, the census they take every 10 years.
Okay.
And that's to count how many people are in America and how to divide money up among the people in the districts in America.
But I mean, they're breaking it up because there's people out there that don't feel that they're just African Americans.
Yes.
If they're black.
Yes, and I think that's been, that's a normal sentiment because obviously if you're, you may not consider yourself African American if you're from another country or if you're from another,
Right.
so yeah, and the problem becomes many black people don't consider them, many African Americans, I guess, quote, traditional African Americans, they don't like to say African American, so it's these categories. So, where do we categorize ourselves and why is it important? The only reason it's important on the census is because they're giving money to the communities based on this.
Right.
So that's why, look, I just say we put black.
So who is Natalie Jackson?
Well, so I was born and raised in Sanford, Florida. When I turned 18, I graduated from high school and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I enlisted in the Navy. So I'm from Florida, never seen snow, ice, like many of my Caribbean friends. We enjoy this weather. I wanted to go to Europe. I was thinking Paris, France, London. They sent me to Keflavik, Iceland. I didn't even know snow was wet. I thought it was just fluffy. So once I got to Keflavik, Iceland, I was enlisted. I remember being out in the snow, washing an airplane out in the snow, and I was like, you know what? College isn't so bad. Let me look this up and see if I can get to college. So I applied for an ROTC scholarship, and I got it, and I went to Hampton University. Hampton University is an HBCU in Virginia. So I went there. While I was in the cold in Keflavik, Iceland, I had a child. So my son was born, so I went to college with my son. Because being 20 years old with a 1-year-old at the time, money was tight, so I understood a lot of the issues that people have. I had housing issues, I had daycare issues,
Right.
I had all this stuff. I'm trying to go to college, I'm trying to do better. So luckily I was on an NROTC scholarship. So I ended up graduating in 3 years as opposed to 4 because I needed a job. Not nice, it was necessity. I needed a job with my child. And then I was commissioned into the Navy as a Navy intelligence officer. So in the Navy, and I don't want to keep talking, so Ting, tell me when I need to stop so you can play some music.
Well, we're not playing music anymore.
I'm
We have a
listening.
lot to find out.
Yeah,
Okay.
we have a lot of information to get.
All right.
So what made you choose to be a lawyer?
Well, let me give you a little bit about the story, more about the story. So when I was in the Navy as an intelligence officer, I was stationed aboard a aircraft carrier. So it was the first time women were allowed upon a combat carrier, the USS Roosevelt. From there, I went to the Pentagon. So I worked at the Pentagon in a think tank, and I worked there. I spent 9 years total in the military before I went to law school. So then I went to law school at University of Florida. And the reason I went to law school is because I've always just loved the law. And I always felt that is how we change our circumstances, by knowing the law and, being participatory in the law. So I went to law school, and then I came home and I worked as a public defender after law school for a year. And then I opened my own law practice. And so from there, from opening my own law practice was called the Women's Trial Group. Really? So I've always had a heart for women and helping women, and especially...
This was in Sanford?
It was the Women's Trial Group was in Orlando.
Okay, Orlando.
Yeah, and so our mission was to help women and children. So that was through personal injury cases or civil rights cases, anything like that. And then in 2012, Trayvon Martin happened. And Trayvon Martin, I was from Sanford, so we knew some background about the case. I knew about the case. just so happens Trayvon's family lived in South Florida, and they knew Ben Crump. So they called Ben, and Ben and I had worked on cases before. He called me, and he said, Natalie, what's going on in Sanford? And so that's, when we got involved in the Trayvon Martin case. So I'll pause there and give some question time. Shelley, I know you got a bunch of them.
I do. So with the Trayvon Martin, how are you and the family now?
Oh, we're really close. I mean, most of our clients become our family. Mm-hmm. So I think that we bond on different things. With Trayvon Martin, we had trauma bonding. That was an issue that it was such a racial divide in America. It was the first time that I really had overt racism. I've always had covert racism, like the sneaky kind of racism that you get. But it was the first time where I actually had overt racism where, I was called the N-word to my face, where racists were following us home. We were getting death threats. So we really had trauma bonding on that. And like family who bond and stick together, we still stick together. They're supporting my campaign. Most of our clients do.
And that hashtag campaign on Twitter, you're part of it.
Which one?
The BLM.
Yeah. So a funny story was that before Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter was a hashtag before it was an organization. And it came about as a result of Trayvon Martin. So I tweeted Trayvon Martin's life mattered, or Trayvon's life mattered. Mm-hmm. And then the founders of Black Lives Matter, they were following me and Ben on Twitter, and they tweeted Black Lives Matter. And that's how Black Lives Matter came about. And what a lot of people don't understand, it was always, in the beginning, it was just a hashtag. It didn't become an organization until the pandemic, basically, when we started with George Floyd. Mm-hmm. That's when they became a national organization. Everybody had different branches. Like, people would start their own, they would start their own Black Lives Matter in their city, but there wasn't a national organization until after George Floyd.
Okay, it sounds like you've mentioned this gentleman, Ben, right? So you just got him a name, and we don't really... So if you don't know who that is,
it's Ben Crump.
Ben Crump, right. So he's a guy that's on all the civil suits nowadays, right? Is that
right? If you see it
every day,
yeah.
Well, unfortunately, he's on the news all the time now because of this situation. And
you
said you stayed friends with him all this time?
Yeah, Ben and I have worked together on many cases. We've worked together on Breonna Taylor, Trayvon. We've worked together on cases here in Florida. We still have about 5 cases here in Florida that we're currently working on. We've worked in Texas and Ohio together. So, they call Ben the Black Attorney General because he is really who, Black people call when we need some justice.
Okay. So, before we even go into anything, people, if you're just tuning into Pillow Talk, it's Natalie Jackson, not Angela Bassett, because when I look on this pamphlet here, I'm like, wait. I'm like, what is it? That's great.
That's called makeup, hair.
That's what you do look like.
Doesn't it look like Angela Bassett? People, if you're not, I'm gonna put it up. See if you're just seeing this woman here. Look.
Men are such
haters. That's a compliment.
I say she looks great. This looks great.
That's a compliment.
Yeah, that's
Thank
a great compliment.
You.
Yeah. So don't take it.
Because I had people say, "Who that on your poster?" I was like, "That's me, fool."
It is. So, all right. So, she said she started off in as a poor Black woman, right?
Not necessarily a poor Black woman.
She went to school. She had a child early.
Yes.
And that. So you caught up right now. She's joined.
Yeah, I was rich in spirit. I just didn't have money. I don't claim poor.
Not poor. Okay, not poor. So, was there any? Okay, to be a civil lawyer, right? What would have? I mean, is there schooling that I know you went to school for lawyer and everything like that? Is that something people roll out of bed and they say, okay, I want to do that, or is it years of some form of dedication to do that?
Yeah, so let me tell you. Right? Yeah, let me tell you the career path for that. So you have to get an undergraduate degree, and my undergraduate degree was in history, Black American Studies, and usually, so that's a 4-year undergrad degree for most people.
So why Black history?
I love history. My mother owns a museum, so she runs the African American Museum in Sanford, Florida, called the Goldsboro Museum.
So is it required to do like you did the black?
No.
Okay.
No. So you don't have to have a requirement for law school. You can major in anything you want for law school.
Okay.
So that's one of the
You just
reasons
chose.
that I majored in history. If I had to go get a job, that was going to be bad. History degree. So, especially an African American studies history degree. I knew I was going into the military.
Gotcha.
So I knew that I had a job. So I decided to major in something that I was really interested in. And that's what I was interested in.
So you went to the path that you went and graduated
From undergrad
Undergrad.
at Hampton, and then you go to law school for 3 years.
3 years. 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you came out of that. You said you opened up the firm.
Mm-hmm.
You took within the year of starting the practice of being. Was it a civil lawyer right away?
No, so I started out as a criminal defense attorney at the public defender's office.
Okay.
So, it takes money to start your own business. So this is like any other business. I had to get some money to be able to start my own business. So I actually worked at the public defender's office for a year and saved during that time before I could open my own law firm.
Okay, so you left from seeing the people to now seeing, basically because at some point now it's more transferring to defending either people that's passed away or the idea of a circumstance, right? So
Yes.
you're no longer actually doing cases anymore to either prosecute the person or to defend anyone.
Right. I don't do criminal anymore. We do civil cases now where we actually sue people for injuries or the damage that they do to our clients. So most of, we do like police brutality cases. We do car accidents. We do wrongful death, those type of things. So anybody who's been hurt by someone else and their negligence, then we will sue them on the behalf to get put back into the place and to recover damages for the harms that person did to them.
Okay. Tell it. I don't want to take the
No,
continue.
you had that other question coming, so I know
Ting, you
it's
know you had some questions.
I have a wally, but I
Yeah,
don't
go
want
ahead.
to. So I'm gonna save some of my questions
Well, we're right
towards
on
the
that
end. I'm gonna save
area.
some of my questions.
Ting's
before
got
we
some.
get
He got some questions for
Right,
me
so
that he thinks is gonna make me squirm.
So right now, I know that you're going into you. So now you have the civil suit. What made you now want to go to Congress now?
Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about my civil career as a lawyer. That's what kind of led me here.
Okay.
So, like I said, in 2012, I worked with Ben Crump on the Trayvon Martin case. In that case, there was a stand your ground law that everybody was talking about at the time.
Heard
Stand
about
your
every
ground,
day.
stand your ground, stand your ground. Well, in Florida, you have self-defense already. So what we found with Stand Your Ground is that it just allowed people to kill people and walk away without any consequences. You already had the ability to defend yourself.
Gotcha.
So what Stand Your Ground said is that not only can you defend yourself, you can actually stand your ground and shoot somebody. You don't have to leave. You don't have to try to de-escalate. You can just hurt somebody and,
Right.
and shoot back. So we... during Trayvon, we were working with legislatures and politicians to talk about that law and see if we could get it repealed. We are lawyers at that time. We're not politicians. We're just talking to the politicians, explaining to them. And I remember being kind of disappointed with our politicians because they were talking about this issue in a way that was not fact-based. It was more emotional-based. And while the people who were proponents of Stand Your Ground, they brought in the NRA and they brought in experts to talk about why.
No, definitely.
Well, why you need this, where our people were, I just felt like we kind of dropped the ball on that as far as talking in facts as opposed to just how you feel. The same thing recently, there was a hearing on reparations in Congress, and I felt like the ball was dropped there because I remember an actor testifying. Now, you have people who have studied this issue for decades and scholars who've studied these issues for decades, and you had a journalist and an actor testifying in Congress. And I was like, that's not the way we do things. We really need some facts. We need some evidence. We need some white papers. So in every case that I do, and I know with every case that Ben does, and this was a question that you had earlier, Ting, is that every case we do, we look for some policy to change. So for instance, one of my cases was the Pine Hills barbershop raids.
Saw that issue.
So in that case, just to give your listeners some background of what happened in that, was that the Orange County Sheriff's Department decided they would be very smart and go into barbershops with the Department of Licensing, because barbershops, they have to keep their shops clean and they get licensed and they get inspections with it.
Right.
Well, the Orange County Sheriff's Department said, oh, this is a good opportunity for us to be able to illegally search under the guise of doing an inspection with these people. So they can't search because it's illegal to search without a warrant. But they were saying, we're not searching, we're just doing an inspection. And so what they did was they raided barbershops in Pine Hills in the Paramore area. Now, mind you, these were black barbershops. They didn't go to Supercuts. They didn't go to Winter Park beauty salons. They went to nail salons and barbershops and beauty shops in the black neighborhood. With that, we sued on behalf of the barbers and the salon owners in Pine Hills. And that lawsuit we won what is called qualified immunity. So we were able to, the judge said, yes, you're right. You should go forward. They appealed. We went to the appellate courts on that issue. We won at the appellate level too. They appealed again. So we were on our way to the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court, with this issue. They finally settled because they didn't want it to go to the Supreme Court. But in that, we were able to get the law changed in Florida where police officers cannot do these type of raids. Okay. So not only did my clients get money, because they got paid, deservedly so, because their businesses were, a lot of them had to close their businesses because, people thought that they were selling drugs and stuff out of their businesses. But even if the ones that didn't close, they were disturbed and they lost money. So yes, our clients deservedly got paid, and we get paid too, attorney's fees. But more importantly, the laws were changed, and now you won't have that, and you won't have that disturbance of businesses in black communities under the guise of doing inspections for licensing. So that's one of the things. So that is how, we kind of work to change policy. Another case that I had was a young man named Tory Breedlove. He was shot and killed in the Pine Hills area also, shot and killed in the Pine Hills area. The thing was, when they shot and killed Tory Breedlove, he was in a car. He was alleged to have stolen a car. He was unarmed. They shot 135 bullets at him in an apartment complex where kids were sleeping. Bullets went into people's homes at the apartment complex. It was a black apartment complex. So we sued on that too for Tory's family. Tory, of course, died, but for his children and his family. So yes, his children got paid, but what we were able to do was get the policies changed, where now in Orange County at least, police officers don't shoot in moving cars unless their life is threatened, and they cannot say that their life was threatened only by the car. So meaning if they're in the way of the car, they got to get out of the way of the car.
Right.
So that's what we did. So when you ask, that gets me to why I'm running for Congress. Because these are the things that I have experienced doing. I understand how laws are made. I understand how policies are made. I understand how to change them. One of the jobs of Congress is to make laws. The other one is to make the budget. So those are my two passions, especially for the black community. So, of course, criminal justice is one of my passions, as we've seen, the reform system. Stopping the school-to-prison pipeline, making sure that people who have done their time don't have to live with that for the rest of their lives, where they can get licensing and they can get benefits and stuff. But the other thing that I have a passion for is making sure that black businesses, especially small businesses, are able to get money and are able to share. We all pay taxes, and so the taxes shouldn't just go to the rich and the big companies. Most of us, I'm guessing every one of your listeners knows somebody with a small business that could use some funds, that could use a loan, that can use a grant, that can get some money. Well, just with the Biden administration, there is something called the infrastructure bill that was passed that's going to pump trillions of dollars into the economy. With that, there was also a Build Back America bill that came. Well, that trillions of dollars, each state is going to get some of that. It's up to your politicians to make sure that your community gets some of that. So I want to make sure that our community in District 10, meaning our minority businesses, our women-owned businesses, get some of that money. And I want to make sure that we have access to that capital. And so that's one of the things that I can work for, and that's a bipartisan issue that we can work together for. When I say bipartisan, that's an issue that, look, money is something that Democrats can agree with, Republicans can agree with, independents can agree with. We might not be able to agree with everything, but everybody can agree on money. So that's what I would like to bring back to our district.
What does it take to run and start a campaign?
Whoa, so it takes a whole lot. And the biggest thing is that it takes money. And I know all of y'all are probably getting texts and emails from politicians saying we need money,
Right.
donate money or whatever.
Yeah.
Let me explain to you why that happens. Is because, as you can imagine, there are 800,000 people in my district. Mm-hmm. So I won't be able to knock on 800,000 doors and talk to 800,000 people. So the way that I do that is by coming on podcasts like yours, or going on doing television commercials, doing direct mail. During campaign season, I'm sure all of y'all got some mail from a politician. Well, those mail pieces cost 50 cents each, and then you have to pay postage for it. So if you can imagine, if I have to send out 200,000 mail pieces at 50 cents each, how much money that would be, you know? So that's why, so the biggest hindrance to running, and this is a very bad thing this is one of the reasons we need to get money out of politics, because you really need a lot of money to run. And there are a lot of good people out here who are working as activists and organizers that's doing the work that politicians supposed to be doing, but they doing the work and they spending their own money to make that sign, they spending their own money to do that, and they're working, minimum wage jobs or something. Those are the people that really should be the politicians. Right. But many times they can't run because the money keeps them out. You need a lot of money to run. I've so far raised about $120,000 in this campaign, and I'm told that that is not good at all, that I've raised. And I've raised $120,000. The person with the most money in my race has $1 million. So so when you ask me what does it take to run, the biggest thing is money. It takes money. And if we really care about making sure that the people we think are going to help us win, then we need to donate some money to their campaigns, even if it's like $5. And let me tell you why $5 is good, because if someone donates you $5, they're pretty much telling you, I'm going to vote for you too, right? Mm-hmm. So the reason I need money is to get them to vote for me. Right. So if they just donate me $3, $5, they've already told me, look, you ain't got to spend no money on me to get you because I'm already going to vote for you. So that's why we always ask people, donate $5 to our campaign, because I think everybody can afford that. And then that lets me know we got your vote.
But a lot of people, when they vote, they only know the president and the vice president on that ballot. Why is it important to know everybody else in the ballot? Like, what does everybody else play?
I'm so glad you're saying this, because let's talk about, I have a lot of friends who are like, oh, I'm independent, I'm a registered independent. Well, and I understand why they want to be a registered independent, because people tired of Democrats and they're tired of Republicans. But the reason that's not good to register as an independent is because there are only two primaries, a Republican and a Democratic primary. So let me explain to you what a primary is. A primary is where everybody who wants to run gets to run. Every Democrat who wants to run for my seat, so in my seat, we have a primary on August 23rd. So all the Democrats who want to run for Congress, they have to be in that primary. So there's 9 of us in this race. There's 9 Democrats. Whoever wins that goes on to the general election. They'll go against whoever won the Republican primary. There is no independent primary. There is no, other party primary. The only two primaries are the Republicans and the Democrats.
So if they're independent and they vote for you, it just gets lost.
Well, they can't vote in the primaries.
At all.
At all. Independents can't vote in the primaries. So all independents, they have to wait for the general election. And the reason, as you can see, now when independents get a chance to vote, all they can vote for is whoever won the Democratic primary or whoever won the Republican primary or the independents that are on the ballot. But the reason that is important is, and this is why we always end up kind of with whoever wins the Republican nomination or the Democratic nomination for president. So, you either, is because those are the biggest parties. So they have the most voters. And so if you are not a registered Democrat, for instance, in the primary where I'm running with 9 other people, if I don't win that primary, you'll never get to see me in the general. So you'll never, and if you're not a registered Democrat, you can't vote for me in the primary. You have to be a registered Democrat to vote for me in the primary. So if I don't win the primary, then I never make it to the general election.
So, okay, so you're Congress, and you are Civil Rights Congress, or you'll be anything. Congress is for.
Yeah, so there are two Congresses basically. So let's say that there's a state, which has a state House and a state Senate, and then there's a U.S. federal Congress. So, and I say that just to simplify it, but the federal Congress also has a House and a Senate. So every state has their own House and Senate, which are state representatives, and you'll have a state representative or you'll have a state senator, and then you also have a federal senator or a federal representative. So in each state, each state can send 2 senators to Congress. And each state can send, depending on how many districts in your state, you can send a congressperson to Congress. So it's kind of, if you think about it, you have the federal government and then each state has their own government. So, and they mirror each other.
But you would be Congress for
this federal Congress.
But what district? Not the whole of Florida.
No, for District 10.
District 10.
Yeah, so I would be District 10, which is Orange County, pretty much. And I say Orange County because it's not all the cities in Orange County are in it, but most of them, and that makes it easier for people to understand.
Okay.
Right, so people, let me say, we just tuning in. We're talking to Natalie Jackson right now. She's running for the Democratic Party of District 10. When is the actual date?
August 23rd.
August 23rd. And that seat right now will be empty because Val is moving on to, or I guess going to try to be the Senate. Or
yes,
she's there.
No, she's running for senator.
She's running for senator.
And so she's running against Mark Rubio for Senate, and that'll be for the federal Senate.
The federal, okay.
And where do they go to vote?
So there's going to be different voting places that you can vote. You can vote by mail. You can go to the election office on Cayley, and then each precinct will have, they always change that. This is what makes it so difficult for people. And I understand why a lot of people have a hard time voting, because you have to really find out where they're going to have the voting booths, because they change. So sometimes they'll have it at the libraries. Sometimes they'll have it at a church. But it just depends every year. So one of the things I really want to kind of stress to your listeners, if they want to vote for me and they like me, then I would really encourage them to change their party to Democrat. And that's how you can vote for me, because otherwise the primary is going to decide who wins this district. And so the Democratic primary really will decide who wins this district. And if you're independent...
But you want to get to that.
Well, if you're independent, you won't be able to vote in it.
Or if they're even Republican.
Yeah, or if you're Republican, you won't be able to vote in it. I say that because I recognize that a lot of black people are registered independent. And while I understand, once again, why you would do that, because you're just tired of everybody, you actually dilute your vote by doing that, because you really don't get a chance to participate in primaries. You only can participate in general elections.
And at that point, they already they weeded out whoever probably didn't have enough money.
Exactly.
Didn't have whatever, and now this is all you have now.
Exactly.
So if you like the person that was in the primary or the general at the time, you can't vote for them anymore.
Right, Ting. That's exactly it.
Yeah, so I have some questions, right?
Okay.
All right. So you're trying to get to District 10 and everything like that. And it's the Orange County area, and we spoke earlier that it's now majority minority group.
Yes, it's a majority minority district. So let me tell you the numbers, and I know you and I discussed it earlier. The numbers are about 28% Latino, 27% Black, 31 to 32% white, and then the rest makes up Asian, others, Caribbean, so other people who would put themselves as other.
Right. So if you went on and it was because of the census form that they're looking at to say, what did you put? So if you put you as a Black, you put your Spanish, then there you go. You cause a problem right there. Next time they do the census, make sure you mark down Black or somebody like that, right?
It would help. Let me tell you, if you want to see more money in the Black community, just put Black.
But I remember the census used to come to the house.
Yeah, it comes every 10 years.
But somebody comes to the house with it and say, but do they do that anymore?
Well, they didn't.
Yeah,
they because of the pandemic, remember? So this year, the census
they came to the house.
They
came to my
came?
house.
Oh, okay. Because I know that they did a whole bunch of different things. You could self-report. They were mailing it. They were doing, so they try to get as accurate as number as possible. And once again, this only happens every 10 years.
So after you decided to do Democrat, and is that the party you've been with all your?
Yes, I've been a registered Democrat all my life. Not to say that I agree with everything that they say, but I understand that, this is how I get to participate in a primary.
Okay.
Now, I'll tell you, my mother is a Republican.
All right. See, so there's a little tug of war in the household right then, right?
Well,
so you mentioned about the two houses, and while I was looking up this, the House of Representatives and everything like that, it's the first I realized that, as you mentioned, there is actually a house in Florida because they said 120 seats were up, and I'm like, how is that possible if Florida only has this amount of seats in the House of Representatives? Okay, so then it explained to me why so many laws are being passed to Florida, because there's so many Republicans that are running the House, literally, and the governor, Republican, and I think all the
absolutely, Ting. So the Florida
every day, because unfortunately, I wake up to this gentleman on the radio that is a Republican every morning. He speaks about it. So, the reason why, and we hear every morning, a law was passed. The governor passed this law, and I was saying, I thought there was a check and balance,
right,
where it has to pass through the Senate, it has to pass through the president. But if Florida and all states has their own house,
right,
what is those laws pertaining to? Is it pertaining to only Florida, so we only pass the law to Florida, so we don't need to talk to the world?
Yes. So when you hear something passed by DeSantis, that's a state law in Florida. So and it's passed by the Florida House and the Florida Senate. So the Florida House and the Florida Senate are both Republican controlled. And of course, DeSantis is a Republican. Now, in the federal government, the House is Democratic controlled. Right. The Senate is pretty 50-50, with Kamala Harris being the deciding vote. Yes. And we have a Democratic president. So I was thinking,
that then forwards to know that is why it seems like Florida is not part of the United States. It just seems that way now, that they're doing, because there's so many laws being passed now.
Right.
Every minute there is, so we know Disney laws, there's this and that, there is speaking about the gays in school now, there's a law on that, there's a law, and then they're talking about the abortion laws, and it just seems like, well, every day you're passing a law. I mean, so why are we listening to the other channel if Florida's doing their own stuff? Basically, they were open when everybody's COVID was closed. Florida was never locked, in my opinion.
Right. So Florida can pass laws, their own state laws, as long as they do not go against the U.S. Constitution. So anything, like you may hear DeSantis pass a law that might not have been constitutional. So the most recent law that he passed was the anti-riot bill. I don't know if you remember that. That's the law that he passed where people couldn't protest past a certain time, and if they protest, they might be able to be arrested and all of that stuff. So it was like a lot of parameters on protesting. This was after Black Lives Matter, after they did the Black Lives Matter protest. Well, the Florida House, Senate, and DeSantis approved that law. However, it goes against the U.S. Constitution, First Amendment right to a free speech and to gather. So that law is being challenged right now in courts. And the courts are saying that law is unconstitutional. And if it's unconstitutional, then it doesn't matter what Florida say, then federal law trumps it.
But the house that you're trying to get into is the Florida House. Is that
no?
Okay.
No, federal Congress.
Okay,
yes.
okay.
So they would trump anything unconstitutional trumps any state law of any states.
But you're saying it had to be unconstitutional. So, but either way, they're still passing laws. So how do we get those? And I'm not saying he's wrong doing anything.
Right.
I'm just saying that if they're able to pass because the Florida House is Republican, the Florida Senate is Republican, how do we stop that?
We have to vote in Democrats. We have to vote in people who are like you. And I'm not just saying Democrats. There are some independents. There are some other parties that might be like you. But the reason that we keep talking about Republicans and Democrats is because they have the most members in their parties. And so they have the most money, they have the most members, and they have the power. We have a two-party system in the United States, which makes it so that you can be something else, you can be a third party, but you won't make you probably won't get the votes, you probably won't be elected the way that Democrats and Republicans are. So I say that to say that if you want to change Florida, and if the governor is up for election in November 8th, and there'll be a primary to pick who the Democratic person will be and who the Republican person will be. So it's preemptive that it's presumed right now that the Republican person would be DeSantis, and in the Democratic Party you have Nikki Fried or Charlie Crist. So if you're voting, and if you're a Democrat, you can vote for one of them, and then whoever wins would go against DeSantis.
How many years are you able to serve?
2 years. So I have to rerun every 2 years. Senators, they are 6 years. So Val Demings, if she's running for Senate, she will serve for 6 years if she wins. For the House where I'm running for our House, that is a 2-year.
Okay, and and how many consecutive years can you go?
There are no term limits.
There are no term limits. Okay,
no.
So that's why people are there forever.
Yeah, and that's why people are saying we need term limits, right?
Yeah,
that's why they're saying all these old people are in Congress.
Everybody's there forever and ever and there, and that's why laws never change, because the same people are winning and going forward and like so. Now
there are term limits for governor of Florida. Okay. So there's an 8-year term limit for governor of Florida.
Okay, so
DeSantis has, yes. So that's why people are saying DeSantis has one more term.
What, of 8 years?
And probably will run for president of the United States.
Right. Well, I guess Florida is by itself right now. So, like I said, thank you for joining the show. We're going to go back to your civil side of everything where you started for. So, thinking of the word civil, when we think of civil, we think of a civil rights activist. Why do they use that word for that? Because there's only the criminal and there's a civil. So why do they use? Because we think civil of something meaning more than just ourselves.
Right.
But you're literally just fighting just for that person, and eventually it may trickle down to the rest of the people.
Yeah. So when you sue in civil court, you can only sue for money. Civilly, you can't go to jail. Criminal, you can go to jail. There can be fines. You lose your life and liberty. In civil courts, it's only about money or a right or some sort of possession, but it's not about going to jail. It's not about, you losing your life or your liberty.
Do you only get money if you win, or do you get money from the families to pay before they win?
No, we don't charge any money to our clients up front. So we only get paid if we win.
Okay.
Because as you can imagine, most people who are harmed, they don't have money.
Right.
So that's what people tend to harm people who don't have money. You don't see, when you're thinking about even like car accidents or stuff like that, if you're very rich, you might have a driver. You might have your own plane or something to get around, helicopter. So when you talk about, police brutality or something like that, you see that happening in vulnerable communities. You don't really see that happening in Isleworth. So, because they have their own police. They pay for their police.
Right.
And Windermere has their own police department. So that, they're going to be very nice to them over there. And so that's why with our type of cases, we represent people who don't have a lot of money. They don't, I've represented homeless people and won money for them.
Okay, all right. So let's get on to a little lighter side here. Because
How much the percentage you take? I just
So it just depends
really?
on what, it depends on what the case is. The Florida bar, that's fine. We use the Florida bar contract, and the Florida bar contract says 33 1/3% on those cases. Sometimes we'll reduce it. Sometimes we'll ask for more depending on what the case is.
And also, how do you think we could go from thriving to surviving, or surviving rather to thriving? Like, what do you think?
I really think, especially here, let's just talk. So one of my big things is that sometimes people want to look at like this whole big picture instead of looking microscopically. So if I help my family, if we join together and I help my family, the kids who might want to start a business, I want to give them $5,000 to start a business. Then they help their family, and then they help their family. Then there's like a big ripple effect that can help everybody. So I say the same thing when we're talking about politics. Mm-hmm. If I help my district and the people who I am elected to help, the people who voted for me specifically, and the people who've shown me time, people like you and Ting, who have given me time and opportunity to run. If I help you all, then you'll help other people. And then it just grows and grows and grows like that. So I really think one of the biggest things and the biggest challenges in our community especially is making sure that money trickles downwards, meaning from parents to children. Mm-hmm. So many times in our community, children have to take care of parents, and it goes up. And so if children are taking care of parents and other people, they can never build their children and help their children. So I think if we can find a way where we can make sure that parents or families are taking care of the younger people in the family and it goes down, I feel like that's how we make a change.
So why do you feel it's been that way for so long then?
Oh, because of oppression. I mean, so many, yeah. So if you think about it, the reason that many of us have grown up in poverty, and even though our parents worked and did the best that they could, they couldn't get the opportunity. They didn't have the schooling. It's multi-pronged. So it's not just one thing. They didn't have the schooling. They didn't have the opportunity. They had discrimination in their workplaces. They had, no access to loans, no access to housing, no access. One of the biggest builders of wealth in a family is going to be the house, being able to buy a house. Because that now you can get equity lines.
Well, now we can't even buy a house in Florida again.
Exactly, and that's one of the things we're working on. Exactly, it's hurting Black communities and brown communities the worst. This housing crisis. So we have to work on that, and we have to find a solution, and we have to talk about that. One of my solutions is to permanently fund the housing trust. The housing trust is what builds affordable houses. So that's one of the solutions that we have, and making sure that we do not allow investors to come in and buy up these houses and charge people.
And put them out.
Yeah, and put people out. So we have to make sure of that. We got to make sure that we're people who are on assistance are actually being assisted by these programs such as Section 8, not being taken advantage of like a lot of these landlords are. We're actually suing a landlord right now who is taking advantage of women on Section 8 by charging them more than what they're supposed to in rent.
What about no. Wait, minimum wage. Is it $15 or no?
In Florida, no, it's not, but it's working towards $15.
It's working towards $15.
Yeah, so that, and that's the other thing. The poverty line hasn't changed in 30 years. So what we consider, to be able to qualify for certain things like WIC or food stamps or whatever, that's based on the poverty guidelines. Those guidelines haven't changed in 30 years, but inflation and the way our money is spent has changed. So that's one of the other things we have to change, is make sure that those guidelines are in accordance with how people are living, because some of these programs, you really can't even survive to be able to qualify for them. So, and when they are meant to help people, they're not meant to just, be for you to not be able to survive at all. They're meant to help so you can get to another level.
So when you're working under like a 1099, they can pay you whatever, or they have to pay you minimum wage?
That's a very complicated question, because now I'm not an employment lawyer, but if you're working on a 1099, then you should be getting minimum wage, but you can set your own, or a salary. Mm-hmm. So you can set, you're a business owner. So like for me, when you're a 1099, you're your own business owner, basically. So you will set your prices to whatever you feel the market would bear. So that's why it's so complicated. When you're a 1099, you're basically saying I'm an independent contractor, and so I'm my own business. Right. Yeah. So I'm putting my wares out here. This is how much I sell myself for.
And so can they work you for 8 hours without a lunch break?
Can who?
On the 1099. Like if you're working for yourself.
A 1099, nobody's supposed to tell you when you can work or what time. Okay. To be an independent contractor means that you are just delivering a product on time. You get to decide how you do that product, what times you work. You can work at midnight if you want to. You work 2 o'clock in the morning. Mm-hmm. That's what an independent contractor is. So they can't give you time frames to work or any kind of.
But they have businesses like that they hire people, they do 1099, but you're telling them like you need them at this time.
Right. Well, they're not really independent contractors then. So that's illegal to pay them as independent contractors, but to direct their work.
Okay.
You can tell them what you need. If I hire you to do production stuff for me, I can say, I need you to produce a commercial for me. But I can't tell you, I need you to come in 8 to 5. You can take a lunch break here. This is how I want it to be done. There are parameters on how an independent contractor has to work.
Okay.
You could sue the company.
Sure, but
but
this is, so I want to really make your people aware of, when people say, oh, you can sue a company. Sure, you can sue them, but there are a lot of nuances to a lawsuit that could get your lawsuit thrown out. Okay. So just because you sue somebody, one, doesn't mean you're going to get paid, because companies go out of business all the time. You can get a judgment and get no money from that judgment. And 2, doesn't mean that your lawsuit will prevail, because there's a lot of legal hurdles you have to get over even before you get to a jury to give you a damages.
So are you one of those, and I'm going back to the civil life that you were a lawyer that goes willing to go to trial, right?
Yes, I've gone to trial many times.
Okay, and with the trials, I don't mean to say trials like that, but you're always, now we know it's civil and we know it's money and everything like that, but do you ever go back and see how the actual trial of that went? I mean, is that something part of what you're going, because I know you're trying, let's say for instance, Trayvon Martin, right?
Okay.
So he passed away. Mm-hmm. And you went to try to get the wrongful death, is that what was being done? Okay.
Yes.
So once your trial is done, does his trial have to be done first before you guys can step
his criminal
up?
trial?
His criminal trial?
So, and I'm glad you mentioned this, because a lot of people are confused about what happened in Trayvon Martin. So whenever there's a criminal trial, the prosecutors are going to be the state of Florida. So it's always going to be the state of Florida versus whoever the defendant is. The defendant can hire a private lawyer, but the prosecutor is always going to be a government lawyer. So it's always going to be a prosecutor. So in Trayvon Martin, a lot of people, we've heard, people say, oh, well, you guys didn't win Trayvon Martin. And we're like, well, we didn't try Zimmerman. Only the state of Florida can try Zimmerman. So what we did was do a civil lawsuit. And even though that's confidential, we did win that.
Okay. Well, great for that. So, but I'm saying is that before, or does your trial start before or after? Or
It's strategic. It's
Just
whenever we
parallel?
want to. Yeah. So, like, for instance, usually on a wrongful death, there's a 2-year statute of limitations. So as long as we file our civil lawsuit within that 2 years, then we're good. Now,
2 years of his.
from the death.
Okay.
2 years from the death. That's the Florida wrongful death statute of limitations. You must file the lawsuit within 2 years of the death. Now, say there's a criminal action of the person who killed them. That could be strategic on when we file our civil action. So if, for instance, if there's a criminal case going on, we might file the civil action conjoined into that, because knowing that they have a right to remain silent. So when we depose them, they will have to say, I plead the fifth, or, I'm going to remain silent, or get a court order not to depose them. So all of that is just strategic. There's no one way to do it.
Okay.
It's a strategy. When you hire a lawyer, you're hiring them to do those strategies. So it's not just, say the law. You're actually hiring somebody to really strategically think about your case, when they're going to file it, how they're going to file it, who they're going to depose. Because if I know someone did something, I may not be deposing every witness in a case. I might strategically not depose some. I might strategically, do something where it's like, well, why didn't you do this?
Let me just say something. The word depose. Mm-hmm. Give us the definition so we understand.
A deposition is where you have someone come in and answer questions under oath.
Okay. I know some people may not know the term.
Yes, I understand. I'm glad you said that,
yes,
team.
Thank you.
Hold me back whenever you hear something like that.
We're not in court, please.
You're right. Thank you.
All right. So, and that they don't perjure themselves, I guess, by you doing that part. They can say whatever. And basically, these are two separate trials.
Right. So a criminal trial is different from a civil trial. A civil trial, the only thing I can sue for is damages and harm. A criminal trial can put you in jail.
Right.
And you have to pay money.
So after the trials are, and you sat down and you went to the trial, what then? And I know you mentioned that you had the passion for it, but when did you decide this is what I really want to do? And when you get elected, are you still going to be doing civil?
No, I would have to close my firm down when I went. So when I really decided that I was going to run for Congress, it was January 6th.
Okay.
So I don't know if you remember what happened on January 6th. Let me refresh you. It is when those people raided the White House,
right,
when all those people gathered and they terrorized the White House to overthrow our government and overthrow our democracy. At that point, the writing was on the wall that there is a group of people in America who do not want democracy and would rather have a dictator than to, in my opinion, than to have black people be equal to them.
Okay.
And so at that point, I realized that we have to be willing to defend our government and defend our democracy. So let me tell you one thing. In the military, I went to 14 different countries. So every time I went to a different country, I would go to Turkey, and I saw a fascist government in Turkey where there was a dictator in office. And of course, these governments change, so Turkey's not like that anymore. When I was in Israel, I saw a police state. So you see people walking around, with machine guns on the street, the police. They're really the military. And you see also the division that can happen when you have the Palestinians and the Jews fighting, living in the same place. There's a civil war every day there. When I was in Iceland, I saw kids, as soon as they turned 18 years old, they left Iceland because there was no opportunity there. That, you either work at the fish factory or whatever. There was no opportunity. So they left as soon as they turned 18. So each one of those places that I went to, I was like, America is not so bad. When I came back home, I was like, we got racism here. We got all this, but it's not so bad on the whole, when I look at other countries. And so it gave me an appreciation for our democracy and how, even though we have a lot of issues here, as far as racism, as far as divide, as far as classism, as far as economic classism, you do have opportunities to succeed. You do have, there are laws that protect you. There are constitutional rights that protect you. There are programs in place that can help you.
A few years ago, it didn't seem that way. For black, brown people, it just didn't seem that
during the Trump
police
years.
seemed to have their way.
Right,
at all times.
So that's what made me decide. When I first saw it in Ferguson, I don't know if you guys remember Mike Brown when he was shot in Ferguson, and how they had all the National Guard were brought in against Black Lives Matter protesters. That was the National Guard. That reminded me of when I was in Israel, and you saw the military forces come out against the people. So I saw a little bit of us erode there. Then we saw Trump bring in the National Guards against Black Lives Matter. Then we saw, like I said, this raid on January 6th. So we have to be willing to do some things that are out of our comfort zone, that are different, to change. We have to say, okay, every one of us can make a change. Every one of us can make a difference. So that was my thing. I was comfortable being a lawyer. I was comfortable in my job. It's very hard to put yourself out there in public office because, of course, you got enemies who looking at all your dirt and trying to figure out stuff on you and trying to, put all this dirt out here. You've got to learn all this different stuff. But at the same time, I felt that while a lot of the politicians are working hard, I feel like some of them are just there to get paid and they don't care. I feel like they're not caring about, especially black people. I feel like we're always put at the back of the line.
What do you feel like Obama did while he was?
I think he did a lot. I think that he didn't do as much as he probably should have done. I don't know if he could have, because remember, even though he had a Democratic House and Senate on many of his issues, we in the Democratic Party, we have what are called Dixiecrats sometimes. People who vote against Democratic issues are the progressive platform. So one of the things I know that I really appreciate him doing was the Civil Rights Division that he did at the Department of Justice, the DOJ, which of course was dismantled in the Trump era, but he did have that. He appointed a lot of progressive judges. And I hate to use that word progressive because so many people, when I say progressive, I mean learned judges who know history, know the law, apply the law equally and fairly. So remember, he appointed 2 Supreme Court judges. He appointed a lot of other judges. Judges are very, very important, as we're seeing now, because what we're seeing in this administration and this era, we are seeing the rollback of many of our rights. The first right that we really see being attacked right now, well, the first was voters' rights. And the voters' rights being attacked is important because if you can deny black people the right to vote, which is many of these voting right laws were aimed at black people, let's not mistake that. If you can deny black people the right to vote, then you dilute their power in government. I
guess explain what is happening with the voting.
Okay.
You're thinking that you're saying that you're removing some of our rights.
Yeah.
Give us an example of that. What?
So there are laws passed, for instance, in Florida right now. If you apply, you used to be able to say that. Well, I'll even go even further back. Under Governor Chris, once you got out of jail, your rights were automatically restored. So you didn't have to you didn't have to go do anything. You didn't have to go fill out an application. You didn't have to do. So now we know to get your rights restored, you got to fill out the application. You got to pay your fines. You've got to do all of this.
It was not like that?
It was not like this under Governor Chris. They were automatically restored under government. So that's one of the voting right things. Another voting right things for people who, never went to jail is that if you used to apply for if you used to do an absentee ballot and you used to get a ballot mailed to you. And so a lot of people, that's going to come up this year because this year they purged all the absentee ballot people, meaning that you're not, all the people think they might get an automatic ballot mailed to their house. It's not going to happen this year. So unless you know that and you go and apply to get it mailed to your house, then you're just going to miss your ballot and wonder, oh, what happened? This really matters to a lot of older people. That's what they ask for, absentee ballots and stuff like that. They have, like I said, for even in Florida now, you've got to pay off your fines and stuff for if you're a felon. They're restricting, when you asked me earlier, where can you go vote? Obviously, if you can go vote at the church down the street, it's easier, right? Mm-hmm. They're taking those voting places out of black communities. So now they have to travel to certain distances. So now it makes it harder to vote. If you got to travel, if I live on Silver Star and I got to drive to UCF or, downtown Orlando, as opposed to just going to one of the churches here. So that's how they're doing it. It's very insidious.
Okay. Somebody asked, how do we get a bill for hate crime against blacks as every other race?
So there actually is a federal hate crime bill. So federally, there is one. I know in Georgia, after Ahmaud Arbery was killed, Georgia passed the Georgia hate crime. So if we want to do that in Florida, we need a senator to propose a bill, which I believe there has been, and then we need a legislative body in Florida, the state of Florida, that will vote on that bill. Now, because the legislative body in Florida now is Republican controlled under DeSantis, and they do whatever DeSantis tell them to do, that bill ain't getting passed. So we have to vote in people who will pass that.
Oh.
What are your thoughts on cannabis legalization?
I am for cannabis legalization with the caveat that anybody who had previously been arrested or previously been incarcerated with possession of cannabis, their record be expunged. So I feel so many times we are for something without getting something. Mm-hmm. So I would want that caveat. Otherwise, why let rich white men make more money off of cannabis? I would also like the caveat that people who had been incarcerated for the sale of cannabis or for the possession of cannabis, that they also be allowed to get a license to sell. Right now, of course, if you have that, you can't get a license. I would also like the Small Business Administration to allow a certain amount of licenses be set aside for black people to sell cannabis, medical, to sell and grow, not just sell, but to sell and grow.
I heard they was going to take cigarettes away, but then they have weed. Is that true?
What do you mean?
Like cigarettes were not going to be able to be sold in stores anymore.
It's not true. Every now and then it's not true. It's not a reality as of now, but there are bills that come up all the time about cigarettes and about marijuana. So for instance, August 2022, the House proposed a bill to make marijuana federally legal. So right now, marijuana is legal in some states. And then in Florida, medical marijuana is legal. Some states have marijuana, period, legal. Mm-hmm. Some states have medical marijuana legal. But federally, it's illegal to possess, grow, or have cannabis.
That's fine. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of it.
And so the federal government, which is what I'm running for Congress, mm-hmm. April of this year, they proposed a bill to federally legalize cannabis.
And your thoughts on abortion?
I am for the keeping of Roe versus Wade. So I feel that it should be legal. I feel like abortion is a personal choice with people. I know some people want.
Doesn't matter the time frame.
I feel that it's a personal choice. I feel that government should only. Now I have my personal feelings about it, but when I'm talking, when you're asking me how I feel, I'm talking as a government person, right. As a politician. As a politician, I feel that government should only get involved in people's choices if someone's right impedes somebody else's right. So meaning, if you are a racist and you stop me from getting a job because of racist, now you've impeded on my right to have a job. However, if it does not involve someone else's right, I don't feel that government should be making decisions about rights that don't impede on other people's rights. So that's how I feel about that. I don't think about it as a religious issue.
Right.
I don't think about it as a personal feeling. I think about it in the way of, should government be intruding into telling you what to do with your body?
I know I'm probably skipping around a lot, but I just want to get my question in about Ukraine. So why are we giving Ukraine all this money, and then we complain that we don't have any money?
We do have to participate. And so this is my military hat coming in, and this is where what I did in the military. I was a geopolitical analyst in the military, so that's as an intelligence officer. So we do have to participate. We are a participant in NATO, and in NATO, that's the group of countries that have gathered together to say that, we will have treatises and we won't wage war on each other, and if we do wage war, we will do them under certain circumstances or whatever. So as a member of NATO, I believe that the reason that they gave money is because it is very important to stop a country like Russia, which has the same military might as America, and not allow them to spread over Europe and their thought over Europe. So I do think that, but I also understand why we as a people are wondering, well, hey, we bailing out all these other countries, and we got people in our country who can't get housing, can't get that stuff. So I do think that we need to address that, and I think that, that is one of the things, but it is important for us to defend our borders, and in defending our borders, we do that by being able to restrain other countries from interfering with and the way that we do things in America. So now the amount of money, I don't know.
True. So people, again, just making sure if you're just tuning in, it's Natalie Jackson. She's running for Congress, the big house, not the Florida, because we just learned that there's two different section of housing. There's the Florida state, and there's the federal state. So, and I don't know if you've seen her ballots, people, that she says she has six items she's going to change or looking to change going forward in her administration, and she has 2 years to do that. Right. So she needs you to actually, if you're anything but Democrat, switch to Democrat. So if you're independent, I don't know, Republican, maybe switch to Democrat. Before now, when is the date when you can switch?
You can switch up to July 20th.
Oh, so you have to do that.
Yeah, okay. You got 30 days before the election to change your party if you don't, or to elect a party, or to register.
Okay, do something, right? Okay, so once they switch now, is there something that so they're now entitled to vote Democrat?
Yes.
All the way, and they can vote that through until the general election when they can.
In general election, you can vote for anybody you want. So even if you are registered Democrat, but you like the Republican or you like the Independent, whatever, you can vote for anybody. It's only primaries where you have to vote within your party.
And I didn't want to bring up Democrat versus Republican because I guess everyone has the freedom of thinking now.
They do.
Freedom of thought. At this point.
And I want to just stop you there, team, because I did mention that my mother is a Republican. Let me tell you how she became a Republican, which I thought was very smart. In the 70s, my mother was an NAACP field director. And in the 70s, the NAACP national office thought there was a problem with the Democrats taking the black vote for granted. So what they did was they asked their membership to be half Republican, half Democrat. So that way they had power with both sides. And I thought that's the kind of stuff that, and it was very helpful during, the tail end of the civil rights era where many of our important policies were passed, and NAACP was very instrumental in that. And so today my mother is still a Republican. That does not mean that she did not vote for Obama, because she did. That does not mean that she doesn't vote, but she gets to participate in the Republican primary. So she gets to look at the Republicans in the Republican primary and decide the lesser of what she feels are the evils of the Republicans.
But she's going to have to change to vote for you.
Yeah, she would have to, but she's not. She's not in my district. She lives in Sanford.
Okay,
so,
okay.
Yeah, she would have to, and trust me, she would, because that's how mamas are.
All right, so like I said, I didn't want to make it Republic, but it appears now it may have been always the case, and it's just now social media is bringing it to the forefront where we all can see that it's very, they call it the right, the left, conservative. There's so many names of these parties now that
I hate those
names. I don't
names.
even know what a person. You're a liberal. You're a left. What is it? You know what I mean?
I think it's important not to let people brand us because I think that as Black people we've had to be very versatile in how we think, because if we're thinking for the good of the general public and for the good of Black America, then some things are conservative, some things are liberal, some things are progressive. So, I think that the only reason that I'm a Democrat is because I wanted to participate in this process. So that's why I'm a Democrat. I wanted to participate in the primary process. But labels allow people to stick categories on you that you may not feel.
Correct.
So I don't like labels.
Yeah, but it appears that every group has, I would say the Republicans are sticking together, and the Democrats are saying one thing, and especially with the abortion going on now, they're saying, oh, it's the Democrats did this, and the Republicans are saying that this is happening. And I thought everyone is trying to be one with one government, but it's like a side is saying we have to do this because we're this type of thinkers, while this type of thinkers, you do that. So if you're thinking, just like you mentioned, okay, it's your body, do whichever you want, you're not thinking properly, oh, the baby has a right. Okay, well, maybe, but I'm still an independent thinker.
Right.
Just thinking independently,
Right.
but you're making a rule on, it seems very confusing to everyone.
So, and let me just go back on that. So, people like to, it's even the way that people, and I would say the tricksters, the political tricksters like to label things. So like you asked me, am I for abortion or whatever? I'm actually for Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade was the case, the legal case that legalized abortion. The reason that that's important is because Roe v. Wade affects a lot of things. It affects contraception. So many of these people who are against abortion, they're also against contraception. They're against birth control. So these laws, Roe v. Wade, it protects birth control. It goes to, who can marry who. There are many other laws that are built on top of Roe v. Wade and uses the rationale of Roe v. Wade. So and the rationale is government intrusion, being able to intrude on what people do and what they think. So that's what I'm saying with many of these laws and protecting them. I think that to say, am I pro-abortion? In the general term, I guess so, because I'm pro Roe v. Wade and I'm pro government not being able to tell you what to do as long as it doesn't harm someone else.
And I'm going to say something. So while the pandemic was going on, no one wanted to wear a mask, right? So it didn't matter. To me, it didn't matter if he was Republican, Democrat, but it seemed like it became a political party where Republicans, I don't want to wear a mask, and it's me I'm saying that's what I want. So the
Right.
party, okay. So if you don't want to wear a mask, you don't want to do this and that, why do you care what a woman chooses to do? Because you were thinking that I don't want to do this.
Right.
And a woman's idea to me is she doesn't want to do that. So why put a label? You didn't want to wear a mask. No one said you had to. The government said it. You fought against that. It went away. No one is wearing a mask anymore. And now you're saying a woman has to do something when you fought to not do something. See, all of that just seems very
It's the
confusing.
hypocrisy,
what are you
right?
saying?
It's the hypocrisy.
Well, I think I'm not against
Yes.
abortion either, but I think that when you don't wear a mask, you're hurting yourself. But they're saying when
You're
you
hurting other people.
you're hurting someone else. That's
Wearing a mask is
right.
hurting
When
other
you
people.
no, because the other person has a mask on. If you don't wear a mask, you're only hurting yourself. You might get
No, it
let me
hurt.
say this.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was on the plane. the other day, and I sat down, had on my mask, wore my mask the whole time on the flight. I coughed a little, and there's a time when you have to cough. Unfortunately, you have to cough. So I coughed. Lady beside me didn't have on a mask. She didn't have on a mask. She said, "Oh, I was coughing." I said, and I coughed maybe 5 or 6 times, right? She said, "Can she get a mask?" And I looked at her and I said, I don't have COVID. I understand you want to get a mask now, but shouldn't you already have one on if you're that conscious of getting COVID now? It's kind of too late if I have it.
Right.
But I was protecting me if I had it and her by wearing the mask. She not wearing the mask, she wasn't protecting. If she had it, she's not protecting the person next to her. And now she's susceptible to getting it. Now, debatable if the mask was even doing anything. But at least I was looking out in some aspect of her rights.
Right.
But I'm just saying how those people, because I spoke to them, like I have a friend that she
Right.
didn't wear one. She didn't want her daughter wearing one. She didn't like her daughter wearing it in school. So she's saying it's her choice. If she wants to hurt herself,
Gotcha, yeah.
that's her choice.
But I think
if you
that
think you need a
difference-
mask.
Yeah, I think the difference there, and going back to, I said that I believe that government should not intrude as long as your rights don't hurt somebody else. With people not wearing masks, you actually can hurt somebody else if you pass the virus to them. And so that's why I did think that the government should be able to tell people whether or not to wear masks.
Okay. Well, I mean, I didn't have a problem with the government in that aspect because it was new. We didn't know what was going on, right? We know what's going on with abortion. We know for years. Everybody has children, right? But we didn't know at that moment. Give us some more information on it. Give us the ideas if the masks are really working. Give us some information. And if it comes back that it's not doing anything, then okay, fine.
And the bottom
I'm
line
good
with
that.
abortion, even before Roe v. Wade was passed, women were still having abortions. They just
Correct.
weren't having safe abortions.
Correct.
So the bottom line is that you're not going to stop somebody from having abortion. Now, you might criminalize it, you might put them in jail, and you're going to stop them from having safe abortions. And this impacts, you're going to also impact a woman's choice on when she's going to, how she's going to improve. I just told you I had a child when I was 20 years old. That was very difficult and very hard, but I decided to do that. And
having the choice.
with having a choice,
Right.
I decided to do that. And so many women make this choice for many different reasons. It could be that they were raped. It could be that, they can't afford to have a child. It could be that they have they can't do something with their career that they want to. So that's the other thing about this, and why it should be a woman's choice, because it impacts her ability to participate economically in the system. It impacts her ability to participate as a good mother.
Let me just ask it. Have you run into a woman that says it's wrong? And I would,
Yes.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
Because I would think all women are like, no.
No, I have, and
Okay.
many times that people who that is something. It's usually in the religious community, and I respect that. I respect their right to believe how they believe, and to think what I. But I also think that as far as government should not intrude on a woman's ability to choose.
Shelly, are you complete with your 9 million questions? I want to ask her some musical questions. We have her, we need.
Yeah, I'm complete.
Remember, I'm 53. I'm way older than you, Ting.
We're going. If we have a few more minutes, we're going to talk to her back to her,
Okay.
and she's going to give us some more information on how to actually vote for her. But for now, who do you have in your playlist? Like
Right
reggae
now?
artists.
Reggae,
yeah.
of course, Bob Marley. I know that's so
Okay,
true.
well,
But Redemption Song is like one of my favorite songs in the world.
Okay. And we know Tanya Stevens is probably there.
Yes, Tanya Stevens is there. Who else do I have? I have Buju Banton. Who else is in my playlist right now?
Let's throw out some 90s names. There's Shabba, there's Beat Him,
Oh.
there's Bounty Killer.
I got there, I got 1 or 2 songs, but not like the albums. I've got all of them,
Does it
1 or
have to
2
be reggae?
songs.
Well, dancehall in a
Okay.
sense. I'm saying that
Yeah.
reggae is just covering the whole globe. Right?
Yeah, so those are like this. Anything that was on the radio wasn't me, Shaggy.
Okay, Shaggy, yeah.
So I have those.
Okay. And what about for actually hip hop? I mean, who
For
do you
hip-hop,
listen
who do I
R&B?
have?
Who are you listening to right now?
Who's on my hip hop list right now? I told you I'm old school.
Are you more like, so it's going to be back in the
I
days
got
of Barry
Lauryn
White?
Hill. I
Okay,
got
okay.
like Lauryn Hill first album, Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. I got Kanye first album. I got Jay-Z, the Fade to Black album. I got stuff like that.
You know, I do have another question.
Well, hold on for
Let's
it.
go. It's about Kanye.
Okay, no problem.
It's about Kanye real quick.
Go ahead.
So Kim Kardashian, she went to whole law school without going to school. What are your thoughts on that?
There are a couple of schools, like the one she went to, that will allow you, in a couple of states that will allow you to take the bar without going to law school. I think that, some people can self-educate. Okay. Yeah. I don't think that everybody has to go to school. Right. I think that there's a lot of...
I think she had to pass that type
She had
of
to pass the bar. Yes,
right.
She had 2 bars she had to pass. The baby bar, which she did not pass. I think she eventually passed
They
it.
still said she didn't. Oh. They still said she paid somebody to pass.
It's really hard to pass those bars. And even the baby bar she took, that just allows her to go further to take another bar.
Well, education, if she can privately get tutoring,
and
she's able to afford private tutoring, then
right. And also, not even, you don't, in this day and age, you don't even have to necessarily afford to. You could YouTube, there are classes all over the internet right now.
Right.
So, I don't think that you need a formal education to do what you want to do. And there are many people who don't, there's some things that you need. So like for me in Florida, if you want to be a lawyer in Florida, you have to go to law school. So I had to go to law school. So there are some careers, if you want to be a doctor, you got to go to medical school. But there are a lot of careers that, you don't have to go to college for. And there are a lot of good paying, make more than me careers that you can do that. And then there are entrepreneurs, like my grandfather who was a builder. My grandfather had a 7th grade education, and he made more money than all of us.
So speaking on that, when you're elected, you're going to make like nothing really in financial, your actual salary that you're making.
Right.
So,
I won't say nothing. So let me not. It's $190,000. So it's not nothing, huh? You go back and forth from DC to Florida. So it's not nothing, but it is less than I make now.
Right.
So that's what you're saying.
So I'm saying you're giving up your well-paid, and that's just the ability to do what you do to help the system itself. Now, are you going to be getting consensual funding from the Democratic Party from when you get elected, or you still have to reach out to people to get?
So if I get elected, then I will have a salary, a paycheck. Right. And like I said, that salary is $190,000 and benefits. So it's just like any other job. You're working a job for a salary and benefits. And then in a year and a half, I have to run again. So I have to raise money again to run again for my office. Is
it a certain amount of time you get to raise the money? Or once you get elected, you can start raising the money?
You can start raising once you get elected, yes.
And who is in your party, or who is helping you campaign at this part? It's just you? I mean, I know probably your family.
We have, I have a team. So Sherry Bannister, she's working on the campaign team. Pasha Baker, she's working on the campaign team. Yolanda Brown, she's working on the campaign team. Michael Dobson, Corinne Dennis, Danielle Lilly. And then we have a whole slew of volunteers. So if any of your people want to volunteer to work on the campaign, any listeners, please go to www.NatalieJacksonForCongress.com. And there's a volunteer where you can sign up. We need a slew of volunteers. We're at the phase of our campaign where, we need volunteers to be calling people, to be passing out literature to people in their neighborhoods. If you live in a neighborhood, this is a great neighborhood, Ting. Is this your house?
Yes.
This is a great neighborhood. I need somebody to pass out literature in this neighborhood for me.
People are around all the time.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. So if you live in a neighborhood where people drive by and pass by, it would be a great...
we're going to get mucks.
Yeah, we would love for you to go to NatalieJacksonForCongress.com and sign up, and we'll bring you the literature to pass out to your neighbors.
Okay. So you have your team together, and do you think this team will be together on to the next step?
Yes.
Are you going to run for Senate after this?
No, I'm going to be in Congress hopefully I will be here for a while. I do believe in term limits. I don't think that people should stay longer than 15 years. I think that should be the time limit. of it, but I'm going to stay. My goal is to set down a strategic plan so that just like any business, I'm a business owner. If I'm not able to do something, somebody should be able to come right in. If I don't get reelected, the plan that I set down, anybody should be able to pick this up and move forward. The goal is to progress. Is not to keep doing the same thing over and over and reinventing wheels, and people think it's to really progress. So it's about laying down strategic, long-term plans that anybody who, if I don't win next election, they can still do it.
So healthcare reform, because Obama said he had a healthcare reform too. So
Yeah.
what's the difference in that you would put in place?
So I believe that we should have a single-payer healthcare, meaning that there's one. Everybody should be able to get Medicare for all, or Medicare for all, so that everybody can get health care. I think that is a human right. I think basic health care. Now, you can't go get your BBL, but you can get, you should be able to get your blood pressure checked, and you should be able to, get those type of things, because that's going to help you. Because ultimately, if everybody has health care where they have preventative services, then we save money on those emergency services that we're paying when people go to the hospital and can't, because they got a gallbladder that's about to, explode, or their diabetes is out of control, but they still don't have money. We got to pay for it. So if we can do that preventive care, then we save money on the back end. So I agree with the single payer health care where it's Medicare for all. Everybody gets it.
Single parent?
Single payer.
Oh, single
meaning one
payer.
payer.
Okay.
Yeah. So not all these different health and care insurance and stuff.
Even if you work or don't work, you should be able to get Medicaid.
Right. Medicare. I believe everybody should. It would be Medicare.
Medicare.
Yeah, because we pay into it. It's just like your Social Security or anything else.
So then the people that do have their insurance, they would just cancel their insurance?
Yeah. And now some people gonna keep it because you're gonna get a better,
quality.
Now you can't, not quality. It should be good quality basic care, but I might want to keep it because I want to get a BBL, and I want to have that type of insurance.
I don't think any insurance gives you a BBL though.
I bet you could buy some insurance to get that. And I don't think any
That's like braces. I don't even think insurance pays for braces or anything.
I bet.
Really?
I bet you can buy some type of insurance to get whatever. There's an insurance company.
Really?
I think there's an insurance company that will. Yeah. So what I'm saying is that there's somebody that's gonna make some money no matter what, and if you can find a way, if they can find a way to make some money, they're gonna do it. So, and it may not be insurance, traditional insurance, but it could be like it's like Clarion where you can buy clothes right now, and you can people gonna find a way to make some money if they can put it, and some people gonna find a way to borrow money. So.
All right, so you are. Basically, you said you're old school and with a lot of things. So you're on social media now, right?
I am on
social media. You got on social media. And is it something that you enjoy interacting with people on social media? Are you on Twitter? Do you like that kind of interaction?
I do. So, yeah, if you tweet me, my Twitter is Natalie. What? It's NatJack. Oh, shoot, I done forgot. Hold on 1 second.
Because Twitter is like running the world, right? So Twitter, people's on Twitter, they're arguing all day long. They're putting their points out.
I like to interact. I do have a team that helps me with that.
NatJack ESQ.
No, it's changed. It's Nat, N-A-T, Jackson, J-A-C-K-S-O-N.
That's Twitter.
FL10. So Nat, N-A-T, Jackson, J-A-C-K-S-O-N, F-L as in Florida, and 10. And then Facebook. Now, Facebook, that's where the old people be. That's where you can find me.
Nobody's on Facebook.
That's where you can find me on Facebook.
Snapchat now. We're on TikTok.
And my Facebook is just Natalie Jackson. And then I have Natalie Jackson for Congress on Facebook. And I am on Instagram. Right. Now, that's for you young people.
That's for us. And the kids are on TikTok.
Yeah, and who am I on Instagram? Let's see. Natalie Jackson Law and Nat Jack. So on Instagram. I will tell you, if you really want to talk to me, go to the old people hangout. Facebook. Come hang out there with me.
Facebook. Twitter, So now you got to get up on Twitter, right? So Twitter is like being bought, being sold by this guy, this and that. So it seems to be that's the platform for all politicians at this point. For
So
all
Twitter,
people
I have a Twitter story. Twitter was the first platform that I was ever on. We got on Twitter during Trayvon Martin, Ben Crump and I. And Ben used to call Twitter Tweeter. we didn't know what we were doing, but so we are old school Twitter people. So now that doesn't mean we actually knew what we were doing on it, but so we've been on it for a while, and I enjoy talking to people on Twitter.
Okay. So so you spoke about some of the music. Compared to the music you used, to the Lauryn Hill songs and the songs that are being released today, are you liking the music of today? You're liking the words that the people are using, the artists are using in their songs, and do you even like the type of beats that are being used?
I consider our era, the 90s, late 80s, 90s, I consider that really the hip-hop era. So when we talk about hip-hop, I feel like we are hip-hop. This new music, I feel like it's a derivative, but I don't feel like it's really hip-hop like what I grew up with. And, during the time that we grew up, it was, we had MTV raps. We had, y'all don't remember that, do you?
Well, I remember that.
We remember that.
Okay.
So the reason why I'm asking is, so you have your child now, and they're listening to...
He's 33. He's not a
More
child.
kids? You only have one?
I only have one, and he's 33
Okay,
now.
yes.
He's a lawyer also.
Okay, so he's grown. He's listening to your type of, most probably the 2000 era of songs.
He listens to songs now, yeah.
His generation. Okay. So
Why would you have to... Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Why would you have to close the firm? Because he could continue running
You
it.
can't, yeah. Well, I mean, he will. He has his own firm, so he'll take my cases that I have. But
Okay.
you can't be a sitting senator and have a job outside of that. I mean, a sitting congressperson and have a job outside of that.
And so everybody has your phone number, too. You're going to have to get a new phone.
Yeah, well, they'll just call my son, hopefully. Like I said, that, he's a lawyer, and he
No, but
does
this phone number that you have, you can't
We'll
have.
forward it to him. You guys can call him. He got the main line to Ben Crump, too, so.
Well, she'll be on Twitter.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she can tweet still while she's making the laws. She can still tweet. She could, Trump made it popular that you can still do your job and tweet at the end of the day.
And I believe that I can do more. I can do even more help, and I can be of more help to more people in Congress. Mm-hmm. That's another reason that I'm running, is because I feel as though, many of the things, one of the things that I've really, really wanted to do was see a civil rights clinic being developed here in Orange County with one of the law schools, just so that we can start putting out white papers and we can help politicians with legislation and bill writing and stuff. And in Congress, you have the Office of Policy where I can use them and help me with a lot of this stuff and research and stuff. And I think that's also one of the things that I'm really looking forward to doing, is just working with the best and the brightest on these issues. There's so many people who have been working on issues to help people, and in the community, they've made it their life work. And so just to be able to really bring those people in and talk to them and help, collaborate on bills and policies and stuff. I'm really excited about that.
Well, congratulations. We're hoping that you get elected.
I do too.
And we would like
August
we
23rd is election. If you can't get there, just inbox us. Tim will pick you up and give you a ride
For real.
to the
the
ballot.
bus. Okay. All right. So we had an attorney on here also, and there was a question that we wanted to know: why is there so few black people in politics?
Money. Once
So
again,
it just comes down the straight. It's just we just don't have the money.
Think
to do it.
about the people that you know in your community. I'm sure you know some brilliant people in your community that has worked for the community. They were community activists. They were organizers or whatever, and they're not in politics. They're doing the job of the politician. Many times it comes down to money. Another thing that it comes down to is some people don't want to put themselves out there, because there are people that will research you and, look for everything you've ever done. But we, at this point, we are at a precipice. We can't let those people scare us. So what? if you feel as though you can make a change for people and you can help people and you have the experience, you have the know-how, I think we have to run. I think that, we have to find the money to help them. If I see somebody, I'm finding the money to help them. Like I said, if you want to donate to my campaign, go to my website, www.NatalieJackson4Congress.com. It doesn't have to be $1,000. It can be $5. It can be $10. So, but we do need to say this is important to us, and we need to make sure that we are funding the people who do put themselves out there. So many times it comes down to money. As you can imagine, I told you there's somebody in my race that has $1 million. What are they going to do with that $1 million? They're going to do commercials. They're going to do billboards. They're going to send out direct flyers, and they're going to put whatever message they want to convince people to vote for them.
Correct.
And they're going to be the people who are heard. With $1 million, I can make up the whole narrative. I can make everybody hear me. So that's why we have to take money out of politics, and we have to figure out a way to take money out of politics with new laws to even the playing field.
Now that there would be the idea.
Yeah.
But then the people with money will push back against that.
Well, there's a lot of innovative thoughts on how to do that. One of the thoughts is to give people, every citizen in the United States, like a credit that they can use. Say you give them $200 from the government that they can donate to any politician that they want, but that's it, $200. So now the politicians have to go to the people and try to get that $200 from them.
So you're saying they can't use their money; they have to use the people's money.
Right. Or you can only limit it to a certain amount of money, where maybe it's $100. That's all that any one person can give. We got corporations who are donating millions to people. We've got, individuals who are loaning their own campaigns. Bloomberg loaned his own campaign, I believe, like $15 million, So how do you compete with that? Now rich people are winning. So that's why we have to think of these different ideas to take money out of politics.
Okay. All right. So, Natalie Jackson, people vote for her August the 23rd, and then she'll be in the general
election.
General election. After that, she's in our House representative. We then put somebody, black, brown, in office.
Mm-hmm. Don't just vote for me because I'm black. I honestly got a plan for everybody. And I got a plan especially for our people. And
she has great ideas. Pick up a pamphlet, read them. At least she's put them out there that you can go on her website, see her credentials also.
So, and I know that we're closing, but I just want to say two of the things that I think are very important. I'm committed to economic recovery, affordable housing. I'm committed to dismantling the incarceration of people, mass incarceration of people, and ending the for-profit prison and prison-to-school pipeline. I am committed. I support reparations for black people. I'm committed to creating the National Office of Disability and Equality Act. So there are a lot of things, economic reform, healthcare reform. There are a lot of things that I feel that we can do. And if we just have people who care about people. And I'm one of those people. I love people. I love us. I feel that it is time for people who put people first.
All right. Shelley? Oh, Shelley's reading the whole document that
I'm just reading. I'm reading.
Again, thank you very much for stopping to Pillow Talk. The first Congress lady, so you really has created history tonight. And we do appreciate you forwarding on the show. So everybody listening is Natalie. Check her out. Go on her websites. Follow her up on Instagram, Facebook. She really will respond to you on Facebook. Anything else, we don't know if she will or not. But Facebook, guaranteed. Thanks for your support. And we'll support.
Thank you, Ting and Shelley. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
You're a humble soul, and I believe in you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
God bless everybody.
All right, thanks. Shelley, the out. You got to do the out.
Guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share.